Well, that was a great question to end the film on and start our discussion with. How will you care for our common home? Jean, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, good.
Okay.
There you go.
I have to speak up because Gary's not speaking up. We just spent 2 hours with the bank this afternoon.
Yeah.
Oh, did you already? I was coming back in, and so, we've made that decision, and Gary's been huge in consolidating and going to the bank that will be represent our philosophy and what we need to do for the earth in a simple, fairly simple way. Our bank will be speaking out because they're doing it, and it's so inspirational in terms of the Pope Francis. I mean, how great to have such a great spiritual leader bring all of us together with this documentary and the story of the different people from different parts of our country, our world, I should say, and their commitment. I think we've learned a lot. It gives us a new vigor. Sheri, you are an inspiration. You keep pushing us to say one thing. Maybe it's composting or whatever it may be, but we know that it's urgent and desperate, and we can make small differences. So that's our good news. And solar paneling is coming at our house. Yeah, that's another new thing.
So not only are you moving the money, you're spending some too.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Congratulations.
Here we are, we're trying. Or Gary, he really was so instrumental. I'm not into the banking field personally, but he just took it and grasped it and off he went. So thank you.
What Gary represents to me from the conversations we have, and so Gary, just plug your ears because I'm going to talk about you. What Gary represents for me is the conversion of the heart that is central to Laudato Si. The conversion of the heart. And that conversion changes the model and the metrics by which we measure everything. And as a money guy, as a guy who was in the banking industry for his professional life, Gary, I've watched this happen. And the same thing happened with solar. To move from measuring what do I get out of it, and I don't know the money language, what's the payback on my investment financially, limited to the money box? And to see the conversion happen that says, but I'm measuring this choice against something much bigger than dollars and cents. I'm measuring against what I am doing on behalf of the earth and its creatures. So that's Gary. You're my story, my hero, and for the conversion that you have and the knowledge you bring to it, because you speak the language of finance. Not all of us do.
Yeah.
Well, I think I do it for myself, but I think I do it for my grandchildren and kids. I think we have to protect this earth for them. And I think that's been the big turnaround for me when I see what's happening out there. The impact of what's happening now will have, to me, a little impact, but not anything significant as what's going to happen to them.
Exactly.
Wow, that's so much. Wow.
I'll let you all know that in August, the Spirited Book Club will also be doing the climate theater. But if you really want to just load up on this stuff, like I seem to, we are doing the book discussion 2 Thursdays in August on Larry Rasmussen's book, The Planet You Inherit. And Larry Rasmussen is an ELCA pastor. He is an environmental ethicist, and he has been speaking and preaching for years on the climate and at the intersection of faith and climate. This book is a book of letters that he wrote to his grandchildren. The Planet You Inherit. And letters to my grandchildren in uncertain times. And I have found it a fascinating read. Short little letters, but in each one of them is a wealth of information about who we used to be, how we got here, and where we're headed, and how our hope does rest on those future generations. We're the ones with the money who can do something now. They're the ones who inherit the real work. So just wanted to let you know that. One of the things that Laudato Si talks about is, he says there's no climate justice without social justice. The two are irreversibly linked. And I think what this letter modeled for me so well was those voices on the periphery. The voices on the edges of our society, on the edges of our understanding of nature, and how taking the time to invite them into conversation is so essential. I'm just not sure how to do it. And I'm wondering if any of you are already or can think of ways that we take our work to the periphery and engage the people who are on the edges of this issue, is incredibly impacted by it, but not in conversation about it. Who comes to mind for you? And how do you have a conversation with them?
Very good question. Some of the folks that I've talked to about this, just if it's too inconvenient for them, they just don't want to believe what's going on.
You know, one of the things that comes to my mind is when we mostly lived in rural environments and you lived closer to the land, there was a different level of appreciation for what the land did and how it did it and when it did it. And if it didn't produce for you, you know, how you went back and tried to modify or change things. And I really believe that maybe there's a way to start with rural America, to flip the switch from the way most of us live in very urban or more urban settings to, I mean, in Oregon, for example, we have a major urban rural divide. And if you started outside of the urban setting, what would that bring as insights, because people have lived so much closer to the land?
I will say that the next film we watch in 2 weeks, The Ants and the Grasshopper, is exactly going to the land, going to the voices of American agriculture, and attempting to have that conversation. And it's a really good movie. I can't say it's extremely uplifting, but it's a really good movie. It does have some uplifting parts at the end. But that's the thing about this work, is there are uplifting moments and there are uplifting examples, but we're walking in kind of a crisis zone for many, many, many people, species, and habitats around the globe. So perhaps the periphery will end up on our doorstep. What did that what did it say in the letter? As many as 1.2 billion people displaced by 2050. As Sandra mentioned last week, she is on the edge of displacement kind of constantly. or more frequently now with the wildfire threats where she lives. So displacement isn't an us-them issue anymore. Extreme weather doesn't really care where you live or how much money you have. Perhaps it will make us more compassionate towards those who are being displaced. Dare we hope for that? Jean, I am sure your heart went out to that young man from Senegal when he talked about the children in the school. You and Gary have been active for years with the youth program in Costa Rica.
In Guatemala.
in
Guatemala, I'm sorry. Thank you.
And that's kind of the whole process of educating these young men so they don't journey to the United States and, you know, the horrific issues of deaths and atrocities that happen, but they're staying there, they're being educated, they're sharing that with, as they go back to their rural communities.
And learning a trade.
And learning a trade, yeah, yes. We're excited as.
Can you tell us what is the name of that program?
It's called Only a Child. And it started 30 years ago with the
You
children.
realize this has been another 15 minutes.
Jean, give us the title and
Yeah, Only a
Um,
Child in Guatemala.
does it have a website?
Yes,
Oh, yes.
Okay, so Only a Child.
yeah,
W.
I'm not sure what it is right now.
I should
I
know.
think it's OAC, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Always. I am on the board, by the way. I'm on the board, so I have a voice. And so, yeah, it's exciting that to know what's going on with a small group of these young men that are having an opportunity for education and making a difference. So and the gentleman that started it 30 years ago left Boston and never really returned. He's been in Guatemala for 30 years, devoting his life, and that's George Legger, pronounced Ledger. And I have the greatest and highest respect for him and all that he has done.
So Solveig did put the site in the chat for those who want to grab it. Write it down. And I would like to say that that is an excellent example of meeting people on the periphery. It's outside of our comfort zone, our geographical zone, and our daily life for sure. I'd also like to suggest that when you move your money, you're meeting people on the periphery, maybe not directly, but when your money stops funding the fossil fuel industry and begins loaning money to startup businesses and solar installers and people buying their first EV, I believe it's work on the periphery. So that's just another way to look at it.
Yeah, you know,
Bye, Vernita. Thank you for joining us.
Beetle and I both have our hands up.
Oh,
so-
we'll just see who talks loudest.
Okay,
Go ahead, Suzanne. No, go ahead, Suzanne.
well, I was just going to say that the opportunities come in many forms, one of which a church I've been attending uses the month of June to support Kiva, which is a micro investment nonprofit that's doing work in all of the underdeveloped countries, trying to assist mainly women get financing for their business, whether it's selling eggs or doing beadwork or whatever. It's a micro investment arm, and it's been around for a long time and very, I think, very well known in most circles as a believable organization that has been doing very,
very, very good work on the periphery.
On the periphery.
Yeah. KIVA.
And Gail?
Sheri, my immediate thought when you asked your question about the periphery has to do with the children. And I've said this before, but I keep going back to a couple of generations ago when there was a huge effort within the elementary schools and junior highs and high school too, about stopping smoking, how awful that was for everybody. And these children took, they were the force because they took that home to their parents and demanded that they stop smoking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, that same kind of force can be there for this too. They are the future, and we have to listen to the children for.
So
give
far,
megaphone, not just a voice.
right. So far, one state in the United States has made a decision to mandate climate care curriculum in all grade levels. Mandate.
Wow. What state is that?
That state is New Jersey.
Oh,
So
wouldn't have thunk that.
kind of a surprise, but
Hard
there
to
you
say.
have it. Yes. Yes. And speaking of, I was just doing some research on composting, and that is also a state, several states are coming on board with that. Several communities are coming on board with that. So those of you who are doing it with your little buckets and your dig and bury process in your garden and all the other ways that you are avoiding sending food waste to the landfill, you are pioneers. It's not a new thing. People have been composting food waste for millennia, but in our current culture, it is a very new thing. It is a renewed thing. How about we put it that way? It's a renewed thing.
One more thing I might mention is that several years ago, a woman who was familiar with Just Coffee or Cafe Justo got that program started in our church. And it cuts out the middleman in the coffee business so that the farmers, the coffee growers in southern Mexico can stay in their homes and earn a just wage, send their children to school, have health care, and have no reason to migrate. And then when the beans are harvested, they're sent close to the border and still in Mexico. They are ground, roasted and ground, or if they also sell beans, so some of them are just roasted, and then shipped from there to various places that order the coffee, and our church is one of them.
Wow.
And so we can feel that buying our little packages of coffee is helping another person stay in their home. It's on an individual basis, it's small, but it's really a good group effort, and it doesn't take a lot to start it or to maintain it. We sell coffee once a month. So I think that's a good program. And I really like what you said, Sheri, about any of these things that we do, really, they're multiplied because we tell other people about it, they get involved. And unless we all work together, as it said in the movie, we're not going to lick this problem.
No. Friend, Deborah Knoll one of our participants has a question in the chat. I'll ask it. What is the name of that coffee program?
It's Cafe, CAFE, Justo, JUSTO.
Just coffee.
No, it's not officially that.
So, but you call it just coffee because that's the English
Well, that's
translation.
the English translation, but evidently there's another company or group or whatever that has that name. So they
Oh.
officially took Cafe Justo as their trade name, and
And Solveig, once again, speedy on the spot, that lady has put the link in the chat. I hope we're able to capture those in case those could go out, Solveig, with the YouTube discussion. I just wonder if we could capture some of those links and send them on with the discussion link.
Sure.
Well, we are going to close for today unless anyone else has something on their heart to share about the movie, the periphery, your work. And we will regather in 2 weeks on the 20th of July. Is that correct? That is correct. Here is our blessing for our closing today. Lord, you know the obstacle course ahead, the intractability of most of our problems, the irritations we will need to smile through, the forgetfulness that will undo our best efforts, and the fights we need to pick because someone really should. But bring me back to this moment, God. The gratitude that rises up within me lifts my eyes and settles my soul. Resurrection has happened again today. You made the sunrise and brought love to the world already in the shape of a cross. The hardest work is already done. The work that remains is simply more of it, more love, more trust, more faith in the unseen pleasure you take gazing at us. We look ahead at a day, at a future that we can't control, but will be somehow already yours. Blessings on the days ahead for each of you until we meet again.